Get ready to be jolted out of the ordinary and into a world where conversations are charged with intensity and facts. The Lightning Strike Talk Radio with your host, Mohammed Fahim, broadcasting live from the heart of the city on Chicago's Progressive Talk Radio, WCPT 820 AM. Welcome to a radio show that charges through the airwaves with an electricity like no other. Here's your host, Mohammed Fahim.
Good morning, Chicago, and welcome to a gloomy Sunday morning in Chicago today with rain out there, but we are going to be throwing some lightning bolts out there to brighten up your Sunday morning. Joining me in the studio again today, Ken DeLuke.
Howdy, folks.
And John Arena.
Good morning.
So, we're going to start off with this call for a ceasefire by the United Auto Workers. They have become the largest labor union now to advocate for a permanent ceasefire in the ongoing Israel-Hamas conflict. So, folks, if you have any questions, if you want to make any comments on that, feel free to call in. The number to call in is 773-763-9278. So the short truce that happened for, 6-7 days?
6 days, yeah.
Yep, and that truce basically is now no longer there. And the hostilities have started again. So United Auto Workers now, on Friday, the Region 9 Director, Brandon Mansilla, alongside the protesters on the fifth day of a hunger strike in front of the White House now, has called for an immediate ceasefire. So I don't know if anybody's going to be listening to that or not, John.
I don't know. It's a pretty big move by a union to kind of flex their power in this kind of global political way. So it's interesting to see how it'll play out, and if it was a leadership decision or how the members were brought into that conversation.
Well, it's the leadership is now calling for the ceasefire, and especially now with campaign season starting Monday, folks. Starting Monday, people are going to be filing for the upcoming elections. So if you have not paid attention to who's running for which office now, I think we need to start paying more and more attention, especially keeping in mind people like our good friend George DeSantis. Okay. Just think about it. I mean, a guy like George Santos makes it to the U.S. Congress and flexes his muscle and says, I'm not going to go. What are we looking at, man? We have got good people who want to run for office, but nobody bothers to pay any attention to doing some research on that. So start paying more attention, folks. Listening to the lightning strike is going to make you more educated.
It's interesting that vote, 111 Congress people voted to retain him, including Mike Johnson, the kind of Bible, thumping, do the right thing. Guy voting for a guy who stole money from another congressman and the congressman's mother by overcharging his credit card. It's like, what level of corruption do you need to hit before 111 of them go, no, we can't tolerate that?
Well,
I don't even know if there's a measure for that.
Here's the thing, John. When they have a leader like, the devil's advocate leading the party in the polls now. I'm told that Trump is still leading.
He's still, yeah.
So when you have somebody like that setting the standards, by that standard, George Santos is, poor guy. He didn't do anything.
Player, right?
He's just a big player by that standard, okay? So, folks, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, please feel to call in 773-763-9278. We are also going to be following up on the case of Eric, who is in prison in Iowa. We'll have some updates on what's happening with that and how screwed up our prison system is, not just in Iowa, but all over the country, how the prison industrial complex is milking the taxpayer dollars. $80 billion, John, is what is being spent every year on our prisons.
Same.
It is insane, and people are not coming out of there, Ken. They're not coming out with any kind of reformed, person.
Yeah, the concept of rehabilitation is lost on these people.
Yeah. And other countries have figured this out Finland and Germany. I mean, you look at their prison system is designed for people to go in and come out transformed. Mm-hmm. It is not about just raw punishment and demeaning and treating them like caged animals, because that never works. And we just can't learn that lesson in this country. You even heard DeSantis, running for president and just talking about this kind of old school, we just need to lock them up and throw away the key kind of approach. Mm-hmm. And I'm sorry, but doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result, expecting human beings to be oppressed in this way and then come out and now be a better person.
I think it all just filters down to this authoritarian mindset. And it's getting really scary. I mean, our democracy, if people don't, wake up and smell the roses here, we're going to have a big problem in the next couple of years, depending on how these different court cases turn out. And even worldwide, even there's countries now that are taking that lead. For example, India. And Mohammed, I know you know a lot about this subject, but I mean, it's crazy. It's the world's becoming a very scary place.
Well, let's talk about India. You said that I know a lot about India. Of course, I know a lot about India. I came from India, but the India that I came from is not the India that is there any longer. The Modi government in India now has become an extreme right-winger's dream out there. So if you speak up against anything that is happening against Prime Minister Modi, man, you are up for some real trouble. A couple of months back, we heard about what happened with the Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau talking about an assassination plot on a Canadian citizen in Canada by the Indian government. And the guy was assassinated. It was not just a plot. And the Indian government turned around and said, oh, show us the proof. Now, here's what happened 2 days back, folks. The Indian government now has been caught with their tail in a crack. They were trying to assassinate a U.S. citizen in New York. And this was this entire thing started happening in May of this year. And in June, remember, the Indian Prime Minister was being hosted by the White House on a state visit, right? Mm-hmm. So May 1st, there's this Indian guy who's a gun runner, drug runner, and everything called Nikhil Gupta, who was in communication with, and this is all coming out in an indictment by the Department of Justice. And in May, they started communicating, this Nikhil Gupta and an Indian government agent based in New Delhi, mm-hmm. Asking for someone to be assassinated in New York. And the guy said, oh, yeah, sure, we can take care of it. We do this all the time. And
it's part of the business model.
It's part of the business model. So Nikhil Gupta now, guys, turns around and tells his Indian connection, I got a connection that I can, put a contract with. And the deal is stuck. They pay $15,000 as a down payment for this murder to be done. And this $15,000 are paid to the supposed assassin now in his car. And that supposed assassin was an FBI informant.
Oh, my God.
Okay. Oh, goodness. But this is what happens now. I mean, this is what was the Keystone Cops? So Keystone Cops in action now,
Keystone
folks.
Criminals, maybe. This is where we were talking about this, that Putin has people murdered for political reasons, or just they're troubling to him, and now it becomes, well, that's okay to do internationally. And we even saw with Trump some of the pardons that came out that Trump allowed in there are 140 last day pardons that are finally getting through some of these. One of the guys is a loan shark that was the college roommate to Jared Kushner. This guy, like, just has a rap sheet longer than my arm. He's a loan shark. He gets a pardon. He goes back to loan sharking. Like, so when the highest levels of government are acting this way brazenly,
absolutely,
maybe it makes the FBI's job a little bit easier, because these guys, they just get so like Santos. They're so brazen about it. They tell you what they're going to do. And it's just a matter of just trying to corral them up and put those guys behind bars.
On that note, it's really scary what Trump said he's going to do if he gets reelected.
Well, that's, yeah.
I mean, I wanted to write down that he had like 5-6 talking points, which is completely antithetical to our democracy. It's just, it's
he's
scary.
He's going to go after judges. He's going to go after NBC. He's going to go after any news reporter.
Well, I mean, he might probably go after me also, because I keep calling him the devil's advocate.
Yeah, there's a list somewhere. We may not be in the top 100, but I think we're somewhere on that list.
Okay, folks, you're listening into the Lightning Strike on WCPT, AM 820, Chicago's progressive talk radio station. I'm your host, Muhammad Fahim. Let's see who we have got on the line, and if we can get Amin wants to talk about elections, and then I got somebody on line 2. Do we have a name for that? Michelle. Okay, so yeah, Michelle will bring you in at 9:40 to talk about what's happening. But Amin, good morning. You're on the air.
Peace be with you. I want to speak. Actually, one of your hosts mentioned it when he talked about the mindset. We have to look at the elected leadership. One of the things the Quran says is speaks of a time when people will select the most wretched, debased, evil mind from amongst them. It says man, but man means mind, your thought process, from amongst them to be their leader. Mm-hmm. And this is what we see happening. This is why there's so much corruption in our leadership. People are selecting the worst ones of us to be the leaders. The solution is for the right-minded people. And believe me, there are so many right-minded people out there. It's so intimidated, they don't want to say anything. For the right-minded people to become more vocal and more active, we can change this. We can turn this around. But we have to quit letting the evil people do this. I forgot who said this, but there's a quote that says, for evil to prosper, all it takes is for good people to do nothing. Mm-hmm. And that's what we have to do. We have to start doing something if we're going to change this society and change this world. Peace be with you.
You are absolutely right. Thank you so much for calling in. And folks, here's the thing that we have been trying to emphasize: come out, get involved. You don't have to run for office if you don't want to, but make sure that the people that you do elect really represent what you want them to represent. Not the special interest and the lobbyists and everything. This is what has been happening in our politics all along now. Yeah. We have the tail wagging the dog, and that should stop. Speaking of politics, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll come back on the other side. We've got some very, very interesting guests that we had lined up for today, and you can tune in again on Facebook.com/WCPT820 to see us live, or you can go to TLSChicago.com also and see us live over there. This is the Lightning Strike. I'm your host, Muhammad Fahim. We'll be right back with you.
Hey folks, did you know there's a program in Illinois that if you qualify for it would allow you to get solar installed in your home at no out-of-pocket cost? The benefit to you would be a reduction of your electric bill, possibly as high as 30 to 50%, and more importantly, you would take out the uncertainty of almost guaranteed future price increases imposed from your electric company. If you'd like to see if you can qualify for this program, call Ken DeLuke at 312-617-8979. That's 312-617-8979. Help us save the environment and change that electric bill burden.
Welcome back to the Lightning Strike with Muhammad Fahim.
Good morning, folks. Back on the Lightning Strike. I'm your host, Muhammad Fahim. We're talking about the mindset of especially people who think that they are beyond the law. And, talking about beyond the law, like I said, the Indian government, guys, for some odd reason, has become so extreme right-wing that you speak up against the Indian government, boy, you're in trouble. And so this Nikhil Gupta saga now, June 1st, the U.S. Department of Justice actually filed something in New York, and it was a sealed indictment. That indictment has been opened now. And it reads like a script from a movie. Okay, so they don't name people. They're like confidential informant 1 and CS1, and they got those things going on. But the deal was struck for $100,000 to kill a U.S. citizen on U.S. soil. Okay, the guy's of Indian origin, and the Indian government claims that the guy's a terrorist. So anytime that you speak up against the Indian government, you're labeled a terrorist. Now, they have done that to multiple people in India. You will be amazed, John. There was a guy called Father Stan, 85-year-old Jesuit priest. He was labeled a terrorist, thrown in prison. He died in prison. Just think about it. Okay. So, folks, we need to be absolutely sure that we are electing the right people. And joining us at 9:30 would be Denise Winfrey, a former speaker of the Will County Board, Will County Board member, a good friend of mine. And we will be having Denise come in and talk about the importance of, again, elections. Starting Monday, tomorrow is when people are going to be submitting their petitions to get on the ballot.
Yeah, and Cook County did that last week, so people have already submitted. We've got state's attorney, Kim Fox is not running again, so that's a race.
Yeah, she had already said that she was not going to be running.
She didn't file, so there's a candidate that I've heard of has filed. I've heard of a couple other that might be running for that seat, but that's a really important seat, obviously. All your state reps, state senators that are up for re-election, not municipal yet, but there'll be some municipal issues on the ballot, like referendum issues will be on the ballot. And one important referendum issue is about the increase in the real estate transfer tax, which will help go towards funding homeless services that are desperately needed right now. So that's something to educate. I think that the challenge for voters, and the caller's right that people have to vote, I think one of the challenges is getting through the smoke screens and the facades of who a politician is. We were talking before the show about Ed Burke, and his wife was a Supreme Court justice. He got many, many justices appointed to the Cook County bench. But this is a guy that wears $1,000 suits and looks philanthropic, and his wife started Special Olympics. This weekend we went and saw Killers of the Flower Moon. And I saw correlations in the characters there. If you haven't seen the movie, it's definitely worth it. It's an amazing story about how the FBI was created out of murders in Oklahoma of Osage Native Americans. But the important thing is the characters in that movie, they were doing philanthropic work up front to create this facade. Acting as friends while they're committing some of the most atrocious acts against the very people they're professing to help. And what I saw is Ed Burke is that character for us over 50 years in the city council. He was the guy that walked in the room and everybody froze waiting to see what he was going to do, what he was going to say. And the challenge is there's politicians that just want to stay in office, and there's politicians that are like him who are Machiavellian and want to control things behind the scenes and be that power structure without being the guy who's got the top job, so to speak. So when people talk to me about how powerful the Chicago mayor is, Daley was a powerful mayor, Rahm was a powerful mayor, but the guy who was behind them with equal or even more power was the guy who controlled the money. If Ed Burke told me one thing in my time in office was follow the money. That guy controlled municipal deposits for what bank got a portion of the $10 billion, $12 billion monies that Chicago had to, use to run the city. And that's where the real power is, and it's the challenge of the folks who are voting look past, well, I like that guy or that woman who's running for office, and what are you going to do when you're there? Are you going to stand up to the powerful? Are you going to speak truth to power? And I think that's the question you want to be asking your potential elected officials.
Absolutely, and that's such a huge challenge. Again, the problem is people don't want to get involved. They say, "Oh, politics is a dirty business." We have all heard that politics is the last refuge of the scoundrel, right? And, well,
I'm a little bit of a
yeah, you were in office. I ran for office, okay. But the point is that then we got people like Mr. DeLuke sitting over here, who's not a scoundrel by any stretch of the imagination. Are you?
You're not under oath, sir.
Okay. This is really important. I mean, both you guys make a really good point. You cannot avoid getting involved in what is going on in government anymore. You just cannot do that. You have to be more educated. So many people have drank the Kool-Aid, and for you younger folks that doesn't know what that means, there was a guy named Jim Jones back in the 70s. He had a cult. He brought everyone down to, was it Guyana or some Central American country, and he was trying to control everyone. There was a U.S. House representative person that went down to document what he was doing and blow open that story. And when he was found out, he had everybody drink Kool-Aid, and they all got poisoned. So many people today are not taking this really important situation in mind, because if we don't elect the right people, we are subject to doom. So whatever.
Yeah, it takes a lot. It takes a little bit of homework to do it. It's a responsibility
Absolutely.
of voters to try to get to the core of who they're electing.
Absolutely. Speaking of that, folks, if you need to call in and have any questions for us, the number is 773-763-9278. Do get involved. This is your show. And this is our country. We need to take it back, okay? And we can only take it back by informing people. And then if you hear something, if you know something, let your neighbor know, man. That's what neighbors are for, okay? Just don't go up to them on Thanksgiving and ask, have dinner with them. Share things with them as to what is happening in your neighborhood and how can we make a difference. Speaking of that, in just a couple of minutes, we will be joined by Denise Winfrey, and let's take a quick break, and on the back side of the break, we'll get into conversation with Denise.
Are you a business looking for the right talent or a job seeker searching for your dream career? Look no further than the Center for Strategic Solutions, your workforce solutions experts. Our experienced team at the Center for Strategic Solutions is dedicated to connecting employers with top-tier talent and helping job seekers find opportunities that truly align with their goals.
You're hired.
We're more than just consultants. We're your partners in success. Ready to take your workforce to the next level or land that ideal job? Contact the Center for Strategic Solutions today at 1-847-306-9274 or visit us online at www.cfss.us. The Center for Strategic Solutions, your bridge to a brighter future in the Windy City. The number to call is 847-306-9274 or send us an email at info@cfss.us. That is info@cfss.us.
Welcome back to the Lightning Strike with Mohammed Fahim.
Good morning, folks, and welcome back to the Lightning Strike on WCPT AM 820. You can also listen to us by having your smart speaker have your smart speaker dial into WCPT, and you can also watch us live on Facebook, and you can see my ugly face and the handsome faces of John Arena and Ken DeLuke in the studio today. We are kind of hiding, Tyree in the back over there today. Tyree is just looking at his phone, so Tyree is not going to be on any of our social media today. But good morning, Denise. Thank you for joining us. Welcome on WCPT.
Morning, and thank you for having me with you today.
Well, always a pleasure, always a pleasure. And folks, Denise Winfrey now is the immediate past president and board member of Will County. She is the immediate past president of NACO. This is the National Association of Counties, right, Denise? How was that experience?
Yes, that's right. NACO, the National Association of Counties, represents 3,069 counties, parishes, and boroughs across the United States. And I have the honor of being the immediate past president. So, boom for Will County. And I'm currently a Will County board member.
Absolutely. And you were a Will County speaker also for a while, right?
Yes, I have been the Will County speaker of the board. I've also been the Will County executive. So rather a spotty career there. I've been around the block a bit.
I remember, Denise, I met you for the first time about 6 years back. And I was going to run for the Plainfield Village Board, and I had approached our local Democratic Party for support, and they ignored me. And I remember coming up to you in a Will County board meeting, and I didn't know you. I just came up to you and said, hey, I want to run for office and I need some support from the party. And you said, you looked at me and said, well, let me take you and introduce you. And you took me around and you introduced me to people. And you said, guys, you have to help this guy. And that's how I got started. Thank you so much.
You're quite welcome.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that people need to remember is the introductions mean a lot. It's a small thing, but it's a thing you can do without much effort and certainly no expense. And you were talking earlier about people being involved. A part of them being involved is where they can make the connections, help people to be known so that folks can know who they're voting for.
Yeah, and see, you actually got me introduced to the party, Denise. You may not even remember it, but I do. And I have been an integral part of the party since then and, been very involved. And I got my daughter involved. The entire family is now involved in giving back to the community. And the thank goes to you. And you may not even have realized it.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I'm glad that it was helpful.
Absolutely.
We need more people to be involved and not sit on the sidelines.
You see, that's something that I'm always telling people is get involved. Don't complain. If you have not come out and voted, you have no right to complain.
And that's exactly true. And we need more and more people to be registered to vote and to also work as deputy registrars, to be involved in the elections. One of the ways you know for sure what's going on in your neighborhood, in your city, in your county, is by being active. Read your local papers, go to the meetings, talk to neighbors, find out what's really going on as best you can, and then vote from that perspective. If you don't know what's going on and sitting back complaining about what's happening, if you didn't vote, is worthless. Very often, local elections are decided by less than 200 votes, sometimes a lot less than that. So people who say their vote doesn't count don't really understand how it works. Everybody needs to be registered and active.
The last time, one of the local mayors, I'm not going to name names over here, but he got elected by 2 votes, John.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Well, I won my first election by 30 votes. So when I talk to high school students, I would say, this is the room full of people that made the difference in that election. And it's true. A lot of elections are much closer than people think they are. One, if there's a contested race, because sometimes a lot of people run uncontested, so it's important to put your name into the mix if you want to take on that challenge. But also being involved with the election process. And I wanted to ask you if Trump has made comments recently about people need to go from other states into places like Chicago or Democratic strongholds and watch the elections. And there is a legitimate way to watch an election and there's not, right? So I wonder is that something that raises a concern for you, and what do you think DuPage County can do to make sure that
she's in Will County?
Will County, I apologize. Every county has to be worried about this, but is this something that that you see as a challenge going forward with the upcoming election?
It is, and whether it's Will County or DuPage, and it's this. And there's nothing wrong with poll watching.
Exactly.
That is fine as long as they are legitimate poll watchers standing at the proper distance and just paying attention to who's coming and going, who's lobbying outside of polling places, who is threatening people, who is trying to steer people away from polling places. So we need to pay attention that people are legitimate, that they are not beyond the bounds of where they're supposed to be, and they're not doing things that are not allowed. People coming from other states to watch is fine, provided they are legitimate poll watchers. And the way we make sure of that is we get local people involved, registered to be poll watchers and active at the polls everywhere. Then anybody else coming up is clearly an oddball and stands out. So we have to be involved. That's the bottom line. And anybody can be a poll watcher, 18 and up. You just register, go to your local election authority, get registered, and be involved.
And
pay attention to what's going on.
And how are you doing on election judges out in Will County? Because I know that's been a challenge
That's always a challenge, and as I'm around the country, I find that that's a challenge in a lot of places. Here in Will County, we've been very short-handed for a while, so we need more people to be willing to be election judges. And we recognize that that's, for some people that's a hard thing. You're up very early in the morning and at the polling places, and it doesn't close until late, which is why our county clerk, Lawrence Daly Ferry, has raised the pay for election judges to try and entice people to work for that day to help make things more equitable for everybody.
Right. So that is a couple of things that you can do. You can become an election judge. You can become a poll watcher. And those things really are the beginning of, getting your foot in the door also to running for office.
Right, they are. You can also work on someone's campaign. So that gives you an inside track, gets you to understand what kinds of literature can go out, how to go around to the doors, how to show up at gatherings to solicit signatures on petitions, how to talk to people, get the inside track on the different issues that are out there for folks. So working on a campaign for someone is a big opportunity to learn about the entire process and the need to be registered.
So
to be a deputy registrar.
Dennis, how did you get started?
My parents were always involved. So I started out as a kid, in the car, my two brothers and I, putting together election literature so that my parents could hit the doors. They'd come back to the car, get another handful of stuff from us, hit some more doors. So I started early on because my parents were always involved. They used to drive people to the polls. My mother worked as an election judge. So they were always involved in the process, always believed in the need to be active and to vote.
Okay. So what was the first office you ran for?
The first office I ran for was the township collector.
And
I was appointed first, filled a vacancy, and then ran in the very next election. And was there until I moved to the county board. On the county board, my representative on the county board passed away. I was appointed to fill that seat and then ran in the very next election cycle and have been at the county board since then, with the exception of the time that I filled in as the interim county executive when the county executive passed away.
Right, and now we have Jennifer Bertino-Tarrant as our county executive in Will County now.
Right.
Denise, what do you view as the most pertinent or important issue facing Will County right now?
Some of the issues, well, there are a number of issues in front of us, and some of them are the same as they are all over the country. One is affordable housing or workforce housing. And I'm not talking necessarily Section 8 vouchers, but I'm talking we have more and more people coming into the area that are different intermodals, logistics plants, and they need decent places to live that they can afford as beginning workers. Kids just out of college getting started need to have an apartment where they can afford to pay the rent and still be able to get to and from work every day. So that's an issue for us. Also, the infrastructure, and we're working on that now. You see the work happening on Interstate 80 and the cross bridges along that. But that's a big piece of what's needed here. Another big issue for us is mental health. That's why we have the new Mental Health 708 board working to provide services to people across the county at different levels. We have more and more people at younger ages needing that kind of support and help. So that board is going to be doing a lot to help make that possible for people to get the support they need.
Absolutely. And I was at the meeting that where the funding for the board, I know that it was a referendum, and the referendum approved the formation of the board. And then the Republicans started pulling back on getting money for the board. I was at that board meeting.
Right.
Which is kind of crazy. And you do know that my daughter is also been appointed to the Will County Mental Health Board.
I didn't realize she was your daughter.
Yep, Juhi is my daughter. Okay, and she spoke at that board meeting, and I was there, and it was crazy to see how people were like pulling back. No, we don't have the money. We cannot afford.
How can you not take care of people? That's your job as elected officials, to provide the services. You have to put the money in the budget. And people had already voted to have that.
Yes.
So people have already told you they need that, they want that. What are you doing? Provide the money. And if you don't support people to take care of their mental and physical health, then the whole community degrades. You need to support all of the residents in a way that's supportive not only of them, but of the rest of the community.
And absolutely, especially in today's world now, there's so much stress out there. I'm not just talking about the war in the Middle East and, the stress that caused for this one guy to murder that 6-year-old child in Plainfield. There are a lot of other stressors out there, and if people don't get the help that they need, they end up back on the streets or in the prison system. And that is not doing anybody any good, right?
Not at all. Because if the person needs mental health treatment, being in the prison system, you sit there for a while and then you're released, you still need the help. Yeah. So what purpose did you serve? Nothing.
Right.
Same thing if you have an addiction problem. If you don't treat that, you have not served them, and you have not served those around them.
Absolutely. Dennis, thank you so much for your time this morning, and we'd love to have you come back. I know that tomorrow you're going to be filing to run again, and all the best. And to you.
No,
and,
I've already filed. I filed on the first day, November 27th.
Okay.
Oh, yes, I'm done with that. My next thing will be March 19th is the primary coming up. So I just say this last thing to your listeners, encourage you all to be registered to vote for the primary. If you're going to be 18 close to or before November, please get registered and get out there and vote. Know who's running in your area and be involved.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for spending time with us on Sunday morning. Folks, Denise Winfrey, please give her a big hand. And she is obviously going to be back on the air with us one day.
Thank you. Have
Thank
a great
you, Denise.
day.
You too. And with that, folks, let's turn around, and we have got Michelle Alfano, who will be joining us shortly to give us an update on what's happening with Eric's case in Iowa. Again, such a sad commentary on our prison system.
Yeah.
Okay.
Has Eric gotten out of solitary confinement yet?
He is. Just yesterday, I think he was released, but Michelle's going to give us an update on that.
Hey, good morning, Michelle. Thank you for staying put on hold with us, and thank you for joining us on WCPT. You're on. So what's the update on Eric's case now?
Good morning, everybody. So, thanks for having me. I'm talking about Newton Correctional. That's a facility in Newton, Iowa, that holds Eric. Eric has served all of his 20s and almost all of his 30s, 17 years.
Wow.
What brought him into the legal system was that at age 19, he urinated at the Iowa State University campus after a party, and that is public indecency, which is a sex crime in Iowa. And that was the beginning of him getting all tangled up. he is not a person likely to repeat that mistake again. So very low risk. He's had an excellent record while incarcerated. He's done everything they've asked. He's also paid his restitution. He's done his treatment. He's been a model prisoner. And one of the questions is, how long does it take to rehabilitate a person? He's done 17 years, and I submit the question of when is enough enough? Now, Eric expected, his family expected that he was going to be released in the summer of 2022 because he had just finished the treatment, and Newton Correctional is a treatment center. So we entrust the administration at Newton what we think is treatment. We're picturing that, people re-enter society better than when they went in. So Eric has just finished 28 days in solitary confinement. He did 15 days. He did 13 days, and then was out for a few days, and then another 15. And this is what treatment at Newton Correctional looks like. For example, he got a shower 3 days a week, but to get that shower, you have to be strip searched. Then you are handcuffed and taken to the shower in handcuffs. And then you have to shower in front of male and female staff. They watch you. And after the shower, you're strip searched again. It is so dehumanizing that, of course, people opt not to shower because it's just so degrading. So in that example, I would question, where is the treatment there? How does this help a person to re-enter? It's a total over-criminalization. And one thing I want people to think about is, this can happen to your son. Eric was a regular kid from a regular family. He was on a full academic scholarship at Iowa State. There was no indication that he was ever going to have any kind of legal problems. He was a regular kid, and teenagers make mistakes. We know this. So it's quite excessive. And one of the things I'm advocating for is we need more compassion in our prison system, more dignity. In this country, we have something estimated at 2.3 million people incarcerated, and the focus is the punishment. It's always so punitive, and it really does not keep communities safer, because when they do get released, for example, with this solitary confinement, it is very trauma-inducing. It causes long-lasting PTSD. So now you're putting that person back into the society, and we've entrusted the administration at Newton Correctional, for example, to do the treatment. And what they've actually done is cause more damage. So, very concerning. Now, Eric should have been released. We thought it was going to happen in the summer of 2022, but a team at the Department of Corrections referred his case to the Attorney General for further review. And they are doing this to many, many people. So I'm talking about Eric's case, but I'm also talking about many people.
Michelle.
Freedom, yes?
Michelle, so let us figure out how can we get the word out to make a change in the system. So if people want to reach out on Eric's case or any other case, who should they reach out to, and how do they do that?
Yes. I'm going to give you 2 phone numbers today. So get your pens out if you would like to be of help in this situation. Get your pen out. It would be very helpful for people to call the Iowa Governor, Kim Reynolds. Her phone number is 515-281-5211. And stress that they are confusing tough on crime with torture at Newton Correctional, and that is not what taxpayers want. Another person to call would be the Iowa Attorney General, Brenna Bird. Her number is 515-281-5164. And we would ask that people urge the Attorney General to release people who are ready to be released. Eric is one example of so many.
Okay, folks, let me repeat those numbers for you, okay? And remember, your phone calls are going to make a difference, not just for Eric, but for other people, and for changing the system also. So the Iowa governor, the number is 515-281-5211. Again, the Iowa governor, 515-281-5211. And the Iowa Attorney General is 515-281-5164. 515-281-5164. And if you can please take a couple of minutes out. Today's Sunday. Call and leave a message for them, okay? They're going to listen to those messages. It is going to make a difference. And if you want to call in over here, we still have a few minutes to take a couple of phone calls. 773-763-9278 is the number. This is the Lightning Strike. I'm your host, Mohammed Fahim. With me in the studio today, Ken DeLuke and John Arena, and Tyree Pipkins, our intern, is shaking his head over there. Tyree, thank you so much for being part of the show, man. And again, remember, we come every Sunday mornings, 9 to 10 on WCPT, 8:20 a.m. You can also go and visit our website, which is TLS for The Lightning Strike, TLSchicago.com. If you want to come on as a guest, you can always send us a message through the website. And get involved, folks. We can make a difference. Remember, in a democracy, it has been a government of the people, by the people, for the people. For some reason, we are forgetting that last part of it, John. Mm-hmm. The for the people is no longer being implemented. It is government of the people, by the people, and by that we mean the people who are already in power. They don't want to, let go of their power. A lot of these people who are running for office now are more for the power part of it than for the service part of it. And we have seen that, Ken, in the past also.
Yeah, I mean, look at like Argentina, for example. That's a scary situation down there. It's just it's like
you can talk about Argentina. I can talk about India, man, all day.
Yeah.
The situation is so scary in India also. It's getting crazy. So, Michelle, again, thank you so much for joining us on WCPT. Please keep us informed as to what is happening with Eric's case. And, we'll keep on hammering at this till something happens. Folks, we did reach out to the Iowa Attorney General's office, inviting them to come and talk about, the situation in the Newton Correctional Center on air with us. And we did get a response back saying that they're not available right now. So we'll reach out again. We'll see if we can hold them accountable. We elect them. We pay their salaries. Okay, these people should be working for us. Remember, of the people, by the people, for the people. And if they are not working for the people, it is time that the people hold them accountable. That's all I can say on this Sunday morning.
Yeah, it shouldn't be for the sheeple. It should be for the people.
That's a turn of phrase.
Mohammed, thank you.
Yes,
thank you for having me. And I do want to add with the Attorney General, when Eric was put on this wait list, he was informed that his wait would be 6 to 7 more years of just waiting for the Attorney General to review his case.
That is crazy.
It's not reasonable.
No, it is not. It is not just unreasonable. It is crazy. Okay, in the 7 years, there might be 2 or 3 different Attorney Generals also.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes,
Can I
and
ask
of
a quick
course,
question?
this is all happening on taxpayer dollars, and that's another concern.
Can the governor of Iowa commute his sentence? I know some governors have those powers, some do not in different states. Do you know in Iowa if that is something?
Honestly, John, we're not asking for that. Eric has served his time. He's served almost 17 years. He's done the treatment. He's gotten 2 college degrees on his own. He has spent an extensive amount of time volunteering. He made a mistake. He has paid for that mistake. We're not asking for his sentence to be commuted. He has served his time. We're asking for the second chance that he deserves because he has done what was asked of him. He's been eligible for parole since 2017. So he has done what they have asked. And I started the segment today saying, how long does it take to rehabilitate a person? This is a person who is very low risk, and it's time for him to come back into society and be a productive citizen. He's going to be 37 years old soon. He is completely capable of working and supporting himself. We don't need tax dollars to support him any longer.
I agree with you, Michelle. So, folks, remember that a lot of good people are there for no fault of theirs or for some silly little thing that, you did as a teenager. And to spend 16, 17 years of your life behind bars is just crazy, especially in a country like ours. Okay. Speaking of that now, folks, again, the number to call in is 773-763-9278. We can take one phone call if you call in. If not, we'll have to finish off the day today on a positive note. And, do you know who John Pierpont was?
No, I don't.
Ken?
It rings a bell.
Tyree? Okay, folks. Okay, John Pierpont, failed at everything that he did in his life. He started out as a teacher, failed, and he wanted to become an attorney. He failed at that. He spent his life writing poetry. Nobody would read his poetry. He failed at that, supposedly. And he retired from a, podunk kind of government job, pushing some files. But now that we're coming into the Christmas season, everybody remembers a poem that John Pierpont wrote. Jingle bells, jingle bells, jingle all the way. That was written by John Pierpont. So, folks, don't write off people that you think are not successful. There's a lot of people who are successful, but you just don't know about them. And again, we will be happy to have you join us next Sunday. We come every Sunday morning, 9 to 10. This is the lightning strike. We threw some lightning bolts out there. And keep involved. Get involved with us. Do join us. Go to the website, www.tlschicago.com. We'll be seeing you again next Sunday. Thank you, John. Thank you, Tyree. Thank you, Ken, for joining us. And thank you, Michelle, for getting on and informing us as to what's happening with Eric. And thank you, Denise Winfrey, for joining us on the show today. Good night. Good night. Good day.
Good day.
Go Bears.
Go Bears. Okay. Good night. Yeah, sure. Okay, bye.
Thank you.